I'm standing as an independent candidate for Bewbush and North Broadfield. By me standing, um, there's a chance to actually change the relationship between a council and the public, because I think the public should be telling the councillors what they want, unless it's a reasonable request, and the councillors actually carry it out. I pledge to carry out your wishes. My name is Robin Burnham. This is my story. I was born in Red Hill Hospital, and the reason why is because there wasn't a Crawley Hospital at the time. I lived in Crawley all my life after my parents come down from London. In Bewbush I have lived for 26 years. At the age of about 18, I joined the Print Union, National Graphical Association. And following from there, for about 40 years, I've been a member of the Transport and General Workers Union, which later then became Unite the Union. Politically, I became a socialist about the age of 20. I just want to quickly say what I think socialism is, because it's not necessarily understood properly by people. I believe a socialist is someone who believes in a society where throughout Britain and the world, the governing principle is to meet the needs of the billions of people on the planet and not the private greed of the 1%. Was an expression of that greed, which you could perhaps appreciate recently, is the P&O scandal, where 800 people were just suddenly sacked and replaced by a group they'd already got organised. And the new recruits are going to be on half the money that the P&O seafarers were on. That's if you were lucky enough to come from the ports of Britain. If you come from anywhere else, the pay rate is £5.50. Now, P&O are saying, oh, well, we're up against it, we couldn't do anything else. But you need to analyse that. They belong to a company called DP World, which has got so much money, it actually spent £147 million on a golf tournament. So really, this is just a real example of how little regard the 1% have for all the rest of us. I've, for many decades, been campaigning in the community in Crawley for lots of issues, locally and nationally. For instance, collected for the miners and the print workers when they were on strike. Ordinary people were able to support them. On issues like the poll tax, the campaign to collectively refuse to pay the poll tax, which in the end was the policy which actually got rid of it. Fight against the proposals to remove our vital services from Crawley Hospital and the Crawley Hospital campaign. I organised with others opposition to the war in Iraq, where we organised 5 coaches from Crawley to go to the demonstration in London. When the Labour government proposed to sell off, in effect, all the council houses in the country, I and others organised against that, and then that was successful as well. And you've got things like the bedroom tax, where I organised with others a petition to oppose any evictions over people who couldn't pay the bedroom tax. In regards to the school situation, where West Sussex a few years ago wanted to adversely affect how the school system was. For instance, they were going to close West Green School, they were going to amalgamate schools in Three Bridges, or limit the number of school places, for instance, in Bewbush. And ordinary people did not agree with that, and I was involved in that campaign. The latest thing I've been involved with was organising a petition to call on the council to end the so-called affordable housing they're building, which actually means that people are paying 30% more than they need to, and instead to actually build council houses at council rents, particularly at a time when we've got a real cost of living crisis. We don't need to have a situation where we're paying a penny more than we need to. Now, I've done this over all these years, and I felt that's the most profitable way that I could help ordinary people. Because if you actually look through history, the changes that we value, the very fact that people will be voting in this local election, the fact they've had the right to vote, it's not come through Parliament, it's come from the mass of the ordinary people saying changes needs to happen, you know, to improve our lives, to have social justice. Now that change, all these changes, if you looked at it, it's from the pressures of ordinary people pushing the politicians and making them change things. So it will be with the pressure of people in Crawley, which I want to work with continuously. And if I did get elected, it won't be me speaking up for people in Crawley full stop. It'll be hopefully the voice of the people in Crawley and Bewbush pushing me to say this is what we want the council to do. Real democracy is supposed to mean the majority. Well, the ordinary people in Bewbush and Broadfield, the majority, and not 36 councillors. In about 2016, I think it was, the second leadership election with Jeremy Corbyn, I joined on the basis that I wanted to support Jeremy Corbyn, who, as a left winger, was arguing for policies which I agreed with. A little while after I joined, I think it was in 2018, I put forward a resolution at the Labour Party meeting in Crawley, which was agreed, which argued in regards to the policy forum, we had a position where members of the party and the public were invited for their ideas for a local and a general election manifesto. In other words, I think that we actually need real democracy, not just fake democracy. That was passed. So I worked for a while, quite a while, with the policy forum officer at the time, Councillor Rory Firebash. Later on, I actually became the policy officer. I think it was about 2020, we had a situation where in Crawley and nationally, people that consider themselves socialists were being targeted, disciplined, investigated, suspended, expelled, really because they were a socialist, but the excuse was for another reason. So in Crawley, we had the smear against Councillor Karen Sedan, who was accused of being a racist, even though she had a history of being the absolute opposite. And her son, Councillor Rory Firebash, was investigated and wasn't even told why. Now, that smear, unacceptable smear, I immediately said that was wrong, and I fought to defend them, as any socialist would. So when I went to the members to let them know what was going on, because I don't think they really knew, the backlash of that was that I had Peter Lamb ring me up and in effect say, you know, stop talking to the members. He claimed it was breaking some data protection act. That's debatable. Certainly morally and politically, I was correct. I was the policy officer. I had to deal with the members anyway. And he said that if I didn't stop, he would report me to legal and governance. And in the conversation, he said he was going to get me expelled. It took a long while before there's a response. It took until November of that year before I was told I was suspended. From that time to now, that's 15 months, I've been suspended. And that meant that I had really no rights. I couldn't attend meetings, I couldn't attend a conference, I couldn't in theory speak to anyone. They took my money, but they gave me no rights. I tried to defend myself and argue that I needed to know exactly what the charge was so I could answer it. And I also argued that I, as every member of the Labour Party, should have rights. I continued to be a member because I wanted to actually fight inside the Labour Party for the rights of members and the abuse that was going on. However, you know, you can only bash your head against a brick wall for so long. And after 15 months, in a situation where the right-wing domination of the Labour Party, using vicious means, got worse and worse, coming at a time when there's a local election, there was a need, I think, in Crawley to have real working class representation in the council that opposes the choice that some people might think they have of voting for Labour. I don't think people should automatically vote for Labour, and when they know what was actually going on, in Crawley, you had a situation where it was the Labour councillors, including in Bewbush, unlike the other the other independent councillor, Rory Firebush in Bewbush, but the Labour councillors in Bewbush and throughout the town that voted to close and cut the adventure playgrounds. The ones that they were going to keep open, they weren't going to be supervised. It's totally unacceptable. I think it was unacceptable that people are asked to vote for a Labour candidates or a Labour Party, which unashamedly boasts about affordable housing that they're building in Crawley, when that affordable housing really isn't. People are being charged 30% more than any other council tenant. We need really affordable housing, i.e. council housing that council rents. So just those two things locally, and as well as what's gone on nationally. I'll just give you one example which is even, has even made me more angry, is that in regards to the cost of living crisis, the situation where most people now won't actually be able to afford to pay their energy bills. Sir Keir Starmer was asked on this morning, I think it's about a week ago, people won't be able to afford to pay these energy costs, these high energy costs. Do you support them not being cut off? Now, most people in Crawley would say, of course we support them. No one should be cut off simply because they've been ripped off with energy charges they couldn't pay. Keir Starmer refused to answer that question. So again, I think people need to think about that. We do really need to have some honesty, some principles about really, no matter what, supporting working class people. And I will do that and have done that. I've campaigned for various campaigns, whether it's a hospital campaign, whether it's against the poll tax, the bedroom tax, the war against Iraq. And that's a record that you can look up and see whether I deserve your support.